I text most of you, asked you to watch it.
I said, now I'm super tight. I ain't watched it.
I wouldn't have watched all of it if you hadn't assigned it for homework.
Joe Budden calls out Ish for slacking. Now, a couple things are happening here. For one, Joe Budden is giving his co-host homework now. Now, that is an interesting development considering how unprepared the world's greatest cast can come off. I mean, these guys rarely ever know anything, and I think it's because they are underselling the platform. Now, that could be for a variety of reasons, but one thing I do know is on The Breakfast Club, I think a lot of people do have homework and they have to come in informed, read the newspaper, do something. Now, from what I can gather, the homework this episode was given to co-host. Now, that homework was the Young Thug Big Bank interview and the Netflix Unknown documentary. The co-hosts were to watch it, but while everybody seemed to have watched it and listened to Joe Budden, there was one exception. Ish. Seems like he said he didn't watch it, and it's going to reveal a lot of insight into the performance evaluations. Now, Joe did say he was going to do performance evaluations. Could this be something that is used against Ish in the future? Remember, in his argument with Imani, Ish said that it takes away time for what he really wants to do.
Because you're watching TV, you do that on your own spare time. That's not real work. I don't watch. What are you talking about?
Watch everything that Joe want me to watch in my spare time.
No,
you allocate time to spend it with my daughter to watch that I normally would watch. And I could be in
that's bullshit.
And could it be that Ish thinks that homework is not something that he has to do because it's not negotiated in his contract? Now, what is crazy is that Ish would be the most vocal despite not having done the research. Yes, that's right. The guy who did not watch the actual interview, granted it was a long interview, was talking a lot, almost as if he did. It was shocking, but everybody knows Ish has a propensity to try to be the smartest guy in the room, even though he rarely does the research. And I'm not talking about high-level research. I'm talking about simply watching 2 pieces of content. Unknown Caller. Everybody saw that documentary. It was also a pretty short documentary. So for Ish to have not seen it is almost a slap in the face because of the implications that it has. The rest of the cast did it, but Ish chose not to do it. And then to not have seen the Young Thug interview, or at least try to do some light level research. Nowadays, you don't even really got to watch the interview. You can just watch the breakdown of the interview, people reacting to the interview. And it's indicative of how serious Ish takes the platform and how he may overvalue himself. It almost appears as if Ish thinks that because he's Ish, he doesn't have to do Ish. Now, do the science on that. Now, Joe Budden would call out Ish for not watching. A couple times he would do it subtly, not too aggressively, but he was saying things like, I wish you had watched it, Ish.
Ish, I wish you let us have this talk. You didn't see it. I wish you let us have this talk.
Ish, man, if you had seen it, you could be having a different conversation. So this is an indication, man. Ish doesn't care about what Joe tells him to do. I think he believes that he is the one that should call the shots because he brings himself into the space. I think Ish believes he's a high-value podcaster, and while he does have the gift of the gab, oftentimes it isn't really manicured in a good way. Like, he doesn't know how to interject. He doesn't know how to allow other people to make their points and play off of other people. That's one thing Ish really struggles with. He is listening to disagree, not listening to build, unlike, I guess, a Mark Lamont Hill or even a Ice. Those two know how to try to build on someone's point, where Ish is just focused on destroying someone's point. But this incident isn't the only creative differences that have been sprouting up as of late between Ish and Joe. Recently, Ish made an interesting comment saying there's no warm-up time to dive into topics on the show.
We don't really warm up for a minute because the show's so long.
Yeah.
So when you go anywhere else and you sit down, the damn near over before you get...
Joe's a piece of shit, yo.
Now, Joe Budden looked frustrated. He walked off set and just looked like, man, how could Ish say that? Is Ish saying that they don't have a prep meeting, that they don't talk about things? To me, Joe was frustrated because he's probably like, yo, we do talk about things. We do have prep meetings. And for you to say that is a slap in the face to what I got going on. Then Ish made another big mistake. This time, Joe was really frustrated when Ish was going on this diatribe. He seemed like he was about to reveal some information, and then he said, I'm not going to say it.
If that is the case,
Say it.
nah, man, I'm cool.
No, what we talking?
We have to
Come
stop.
on.
Pardon me.
It's a big buildup that you do. So we are waiting
Yo,
to hear
dog,
what
so-
you're saying.
Joe castigated him. He said, yo, we got to stop doing that. And it's true, they do got to stop doing that. You can't convey to the listener that you're not going to bring something up. It makes the listener feel like, oh my God, why are you bringing it up? Just don't talk about it, because now you're leaving me yearning for something you can never deliver on. And that is one of the greatest pitfalls of the Joe Budden podcast. And to be quite fair, Ish isn't the only one that does that. Joe Budden does that himself. There's been countless times when he says, one day we're going to wake it up. Oh, I can't talk about that. Well, then don't talk about it. Don't bring it up. Don't create the illusion of you being some type of insider if you're not willing and ready to go there. Like, Joe will go in on someone like Khalid and Danny Lay, but then let someone like Memphis Bleak do some wild stuff. He'll be quiet on the subject. And of course, we all know what's going on there. Now, as for how this changes moving forward, let's monitor the type of homework Joe Budden gives to the rest of the cast. Now, this comes on the heels of Melissa Ford's absence from the show, and a lot of people couldn't help but notice that in light of Melissa Ford's absence, the cast doesn't seem to be talking about much. And we all know that Melissa Ford was the one that was always bringing in the topics, writing on the board. Could it be that her absence as far as structuring and coordinating is missing? Also, is it time for Joe to invest in a producer? Because it's clear the rest of the cast doesn't really care what he has to say. Like, could someone have sent Ish the notes of Unknown Caller or the Big Bank interview, or just give him like little 10 minutes? Because Ish is not going to listen to Joe. It's about 4 years in. He already doesn't care. He's not changing. He's an older man, and he does have value. Like, if you listen to him break down the Young Thug interview, it almost appeared like he actually watched it. But he didn't. So imagine the type of conversation he could have had he actually watched the interview. So I guess Ish's reflection that he's a slacker, he likes to procrastinate. He said that on previous episodes that, he doesn't really prepare, is coming across. And there's been other instances of Ish being unprepared. One being where there was an anniversary for the show, and Joe wanted Ish to come dressed, and he didn't. Then there was another instance I can recall when they were talking about the Bridget-Mandy breakup, and Ish was on some like, I don't really want to talk about it, that's my people's. Only for him to start talking about it when Joe would force the discussion, like, no, we're going to talk about it. And Joe did the same thing he did with this Big Bang Young Thug interview. They're like, yo, let me finish, because you had all of this hesitance to speak about a subject. But the minute I deep dive on it is the minute you want to talk about it. That's just weird. That's not good podcasting. And I think Ish can make some adjustments, because Ish is a beloved member of the show because he provides two things. First, he knows how to speak. But two, he's also able to give Joe the perception of having a Friends Who Pod podcast. Though I severely think that Ish and Joe aren't as cool. First of all, there's several indications from different walks of the Joe Budden universe, right? There's former friends of the Joe Budden universe. There's also fan bases of the Joe Budden universe who seem to talk to members of the show that think that these guys don't like each other. They haven't been cool. Joe Budden and Ish, they stopped speaking for years. And another nail in the coffin is Ish has never introduced Joe Budden to his current girl. That is crazy to me. And it's crazy to a lot of people, but I also think that Ish is right in that regard, because the moment you introduce something to Joe, it becomes something that the show can bring up. Even if he says he's not going to bring it up, he going to bring it up. It's just the way his brain is wired. Whatever he sees, whatever his mind perceives is going to be on the table. And I can't be mad at Ish for not being too open. And I do think that Ish's refusal to do research, like I said earlier in the video, is him saying, you don't pay me for that. You pay me for when I show up to work from, I think they arrive at 10:30 to 5 o'clock. That's all you get, buddy. Don't think that I'm going to be taking this so serious. I'm an independent contractor. For the time I show up, I do it. I don't get health insurance. I do what I need to do within these hours. And when that's wrapped up, I go home and go about my day. I live my life. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you feel like Ish slacking is going to be an issue for the Joe Budden podcast? I do think that Joe Budden came with a lot of energy this episode, and it comes on the heels of that tweet where he said that, you know, September is a place where you get to recalibrate and build for the rest of the year. So watch as Joe gets frustrated, seemingly with Ish, for his lack of preparation as he tries to take the show to the next level in light of Melissa Ford and Queen's Flip's absence. Both of them are missing. Melissa Ford, I think, is either suspended. There's some type of arbitration going on, which I'll get into another video about that. So we'll have to see how this goes. Let me know what you think in the comments. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. And follow me on Patreon. I just dropped an episode of my podcast. Pretty awesome podcast I did with some people from Spaces, Evan and my man E from back in the day. They dropped knowledge. We talked about what happened with Melissa Ford, what happened between Funk Flex and Hot 97. So there's a lot of science being done on Patreon, and I think you'll have a good time listening to it. I mean, there's hundreds of pieces of content on that. There's classic spaces. There's great pods. There's all types of stuff. With that said, this is Danny from The Stop. Peace.